Hello, welcome to the show. This is Chris, and this short preview episode was mixed and edited by Michael Jerry. He's a graduate of Podcast Engineering School, and I'm sure you'll be hearing his name in the future. So enjoy this preview of the Podcast Editors Conference 2020. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Podcast Engineering Show. I'm Chris Curran, and this is a very special bonus preview of the 2020 Podcast Editors Conference. That's right, Podcast Editors Conference. This is the first one ever. And here with me is Steve Stewart. He's the head honcho at Podcast Editors Club on Facebook. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're not a member of the Podcast Editors Club on Facebook, make it happen. Go over there and send Steve a note. Say, dude, I want in. Right? Anyone's allowed in, right, Steve Stewart?
They just have to answer a couple qualifying questions. If they don't know the answers, they don't belong.
Oh, I like that. All right, and also here is Mark Deal. He is the mayor of he's the mayor of Atlanta, Georgia. I almost forgot the name of the city where you live, dude.
That's funny because it's right here, Squadcast. You're like staring right at it.
Oh, well, I'm not looking at that screen anymore.
Oh, no worries.
I'm looking at my notes, Mark Deal. So, Mark Deal, you are also a head honcho at Podcast Editors Club on Facebook. And you both, real quick, both introduce yourselves real quick, what you actually do in life. Steve Stewart, go.
Sure. Steve Stewart fell into a career as a podcast editor for mostly personal finance podcasts.
Nice. And Mark Deal.
I am Mark Deal. I am a podcast director for branded shows. I also run Podcast Atlanta. It's the world's fastest growing local podcasting group. We've got over 1,200 members and hold monthly events here in Atlanta.
Sweet. And now the first question is, why did you guys organize this upcoming Podcast Editors Conference? Why does there need to be a conference for podcast editors, Steve Stewart?
I can start with that, yes. Mark Deal and I have been friends for a while. He keeps pushing me into doing things that are good for me. And something he was talking to me about probably almost 2 years ago now was actually holding a conference for podcast editors. It was something I wanted to do, but I just didn't think the logistics would ever work, making people fly into town for a day or two and, all that stuff. So when he connected with Chris Kremitzos and came up with the idea of a pre-conference, all the pieces fit. And I'll let Mark take over from here.
Yeah, as Steve was saying, it's something I've been pushing him to do. I know people have been asking me about this. I run events in Atlanta, and people have been asking about an editing type event. Usually our events are like 2 to 3 hours. And Steve and I run this Podcast Editors Club. It's over 3 years old, almost 5,000 members. And we found that the people that get the best work are those that go to conferences with intent. So we intended to make a conference for editors to help improve their craft and polish their business.
Right. And just to, because I didn't say it yet, the conference is actually March 6th, 2020. It's the pre-day at Podfest. So Podfest is the big conference happening that weekend in Orlando, Florida. And Podcast Editors Conference is a full-day conference on the pre-day, which is March 6th. And so I want to just comment that, when you guys started the Podcast Editors Club on Facebook, I mean, I know because you've said it multiple times, you guys never expected it to get up to this many people and that so many people would be interested in this topic because it's only about podcast editing and post-production. You guys don't even allow discussions about recording and microphones and all that. So
No.
So anyway, what I'm saying is, it makes sense that you guys were surprised at the popularity and growth of the Facebook group, and so it was it's a natural step to have a one-day conference from that, right?
I would think so at the point that we're at now. Really what it was is after my birthday, I wanted to do something special for myself, and I wanted to have that Facebook group just for talking about post-production stuff. I don't want to talk about all the things you hear in all the other groups that are still asked every day today. What microphone should I use? What recording software should I use? Those are just played out questions.
Right.
And so I said, hey, Mark, I need to get another person in this to make it actually a group. And he's like, yeah, add me. And then from there, it just took off.
Nice. So the main topics that are going to be covered in this one-day conference revolve around business. And Mark, what you said before, it makes sense that the podcast editors and producers who actually attend conferences and go out and meet people and shake hands and hand out cards, they're the people that get more clients, right? And is that the basic reason why you guys decided to focus on the business aspect of podcast production?
We think so. And also, you can only cover so much in one day. And Steve has already recorded a bunch of different sessions on how to use different DAWs with other experts. And we decided to put all those videos up on the website for Podcast Editors Conference so attendees can watch those, learn a couple of tips and tricks around their DAWs, but at the conference really focus on the business of running a podcast editing service or building yourself as a podcast editor. Hey, here's how you cut, paste, slide stuff over. In fact, I mean, there's a really great podcast engineering school for that. People should just go to that.
Yeah, it really does make sense. I mean, the tactics and software and all this stuff is, it's covered a lot. There's videos you guys have posted. And so it makes sense to focus on the business aspect because that's mostly what podcast editors like that's the most important thing to figure out for a podcast editor is, okay, I can learn how to cut and paste audio and all that, but how do I actually make money and do this for a living? So it makes sense. So let's go over the speakers and the topics real quick. So who's going to start reeling off the list? And by the way, Mark Deal, you're calling it a DAW. You mean DAW, right? DAW?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It's a southern slang.
But I love the word Tao because I'm so into Taoism. Are you?
I am not, but I know that you are.
Okay, cool. All right, so speakers and the topics. Let's go through the list.
Mark, you start.
Oh, okay. So I'll start with the sessions. The first one, we open up with branding and marketing, and that's with Emily and Carrie. Both of them together are going to be speaking on that topic about how to make your personal and online presence look like a cohesive unit so you could reach potential clients.
All right, 2 females on stage. I'm offended. Okay, who's next? What's next?
Well, you're not going to like what Steve has for you.
Yeah, the second session we're going to have is Britany Felix. One thing that she likes to talk about, or at least she's known for talking about a lot, is how she keeps raising her rates and how she keeps finding the right clients. So she's going to have a full half hour to talk about how she niched down, and she works with only people that she absolutely loves now. That's going to be a fantastic session.
That is so cool. And she actually lives here in the city where I live, Colorado Springs, and I did meet her at Podcast Movement last year. But yeah, what a great topic, because that's the cardinal mistake that beginning editors make is they take on a bunch of clients at such a low rate that they don't make any money, and it's frustrating, and you just burn yourself out and you're done, right? You're toast.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then from there, we've got a panel on adding additional services. Mathew Passy is going to be moderating that panel, and he's got Hines and Jaime. How do you pronounce her last name? She spoke with me at PMX. I can't pronounce it. Sorry, Jaime.
Legagneur.
There you go. Sorry, Jaime, if you're listening to this, totally flopped that one. But one of the things we found, Chris, is editors often like to add additional services, whether it's artwork design or show note writing, in a number of different things. So we wanted to have a panel on the additional services that editors could add in addition to their editing service that doesn't cannibalize their work, but instead grows it.
Yeah, and that's such a fundamental business, like an aspect of business where, if let's say you're hired to you're a roofing company, you're hired to put a roof on someone's house. It's like, well, maybe you also build decks or you can put in new windows or put up siding. And that's why actually my family business does roofing, siding, windows, and decks back in New Jersey. And it's all
outdoor stuff, but no interior kitchen, right?
Correct. So it all depends on your expertise. So just FYI, as a podcast producer, I do not offer any, ancillary services like show notes writing or posting on Twitter. Like, I don't do any of that because I don't want to. I specialize in one thing, but certainly there's so many opportunities like that to make extra money. So that's going to be a great session.
The next session is going to be coming up shortly after lunch, and that's going to be Processes and Systems with Jeni Wren Stottrup. I can never pronounce her name either. That's going to be interesting because she's already talked to me about a couple things she's going to present, and I think she's going to talk about Dropbox Paper, which from what I understand is a game changer when you're trying to organize all these different projects and all the pieces that go together in whatever system that you want to use. It won't just be about Dropbox Paper, it'll be about other things as well. But But that's going to be great because I think one of the things that we lack as podcast editors, especially when we're just starting out and doing it ourselves, is some kind of organizational structure. Over time, we build in all these different pieces, and our clients like to introduce us to all these different systems as well. I think she's going to bring up a flashlight to this problem.
Dude, there's what a topic, because there's, organizing your files and all the back and forth with clients is like, that can either be the biggest headache in the world, or if you have the proper system set up, it can be just nice and flowing in the background, right? It can be utter misery or complete, peace of mind, right? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And then from there, we have building a company. It's a panel. And Chris, you're going to be on that panel. Awesome. And it's all about, teamwork makes the dream work. And if you start to build a bucket of business as an editor, you're going to grow your staff to get people to do the things that you don't like to do, or perhaps they're better at it. And that's what that panel is all about. So, Chris, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you plan to share on that panel.
Yeah, well, actually, so the whole teamwork aspect of it is, I can obviously talk about that because I'm working with clients and their teams and stuff, but I'm not like Darrell, who's built a company with, like 20 or 30 or 40 people involved in his whole company.
I have 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have 1. So it's me. So, but the value I can bring is about getting bigger clients and getting work where you need a team of people to get it done, and just to bring in higher dollar clients and to offer more services and make more money, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could jump in and explain a little bit more about that, because we've got Darnell, who's got over 150 shows, or probably close to that now, with many team members. Christy Haussler will be there. She's with Team Podcast. I just spoke with her the other day on a Facebook Live. She's got 12 employees all over the place, 6 in the United States, 6 outside, running teams of people. And then there's Chris, who's just me, myself, and I, right? Chris, that's your whole team, is me, myself, and I. Yep. We're going to bring a dynamic to that panel that explains that it doesn't have to follow a traditional business plan of, once I get so big, I need to hire an additional editor. You can actually create a business just on one service that you provide as the sole person of the point of contact for your clients.
Right.
Or you can go out to have 100 employees. We'll talk about both sides of that story.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, cool. So who has to follow up me?
That would be my personal friend from Atlanta, Audrey Bell-Kearney. She's going to be talking about client communications and customer service. She's got a great personal story. She does a show for somebody, and that person, who I believe has a personal or professional branding business, they ended up doing a cruise, like a convention type cruise, and brought Audrey onto the cruise to teach some of her podcasting craft that she did for her client to basically her client's audience. So she really has found a way to make her clients love her, and we wanted her to come to Podcast Editors Conference to teach all of us how to get that love from our clients.
Oh man, I'm telling you, you guys have lined up just the core fundamental topics here, because treating your clients well and making them love you is key to keeping them as a client, and that way your good clients will stay with you, and the bad clients you can more easily, with more peace of mind, fire them and then
right.
get more good clients.
Exactly. They definitely get rid of the bad clients. Dump the duds.
So cool.
Yeah. And to close out the conference, for every business conference, you need, so we've got branding and marketing your small business. So we've got pricing, hiring the right clients, additional revenue streams, all these business things. Finally, it's accounting and bookkeeping software. I'm kidding.
What?
I'm kidding. I was about to say, dude.
You shocked me.
It would really close out the show, right? It would,
yeah,
but that's such a it's such a session, and this is personally something that I wanted at the conference, was a session about the ethics of editing and disfluencies. What is it that you can cut out ethically? Is there a problem there? There's a lot of debates about this when you bring up the topic. And then disfluencies. Craig Wealand is the speaker for this. He's the presenter. He actually teaches. He's a Cambridge teacher, and he knows all about disfluencies, the English language and Spanish, because he's from Spain. He's flying over from Spain to do this. I'm just excited that he's coming over from Spain, and then he's going to be talking about the ethics of editing. I think this is going to be a really great final session of the day.
Yeah, I know one of our sponsors had something to say about editing ethics and Disfluencies when they saw that on our sessions. Like, oh, well, we're going to do a session, in their own video series just on that. We're like, yeah, well, we're already covering it in our conference. People are very passionate and opinionated about that topic.
So just for the listener, not for me, because I know what the word Disfluencies means. I mean, I really do. But just for the listeners, not for me, okay? What does that word actually mean?
I could look it up, the technical definition, but I'll just give you what mine is. Disfluencies is what I just did. I just stumbled over my words and, am doing all this fun, kind of stuff.
I love how you have to force yourself to do that while all the rest of us have to cut that out of conversation, Steve.
Yeah, Disfluencies is more of the imperfections of speech.
Okay. Wow. All right. So, and by the way, Craig Wealand is a graduate of my school. So
yes, he is.
There you go. All right. Well, this sounds awesome. So now what's the offer here? This has to cost $5,000, Mark Deal.
But wait,
to attend.
There's more. There is more. Mark, you want to talk about what happens an hour after we're done with our conference?
Oh, yeah, real quick, and then we'll get to exactly what Chris was saying. We've got the marketplace for PodFest, and we're going to make sure that editors and people that attend Podcast Editors Conference have, what I'll say, an unfair advantage at that marketplace, and that's about all I can say about that at this time.
Huh. And before we get to the offer, how much it costs, do you guys want to mention the sponsors of the Podcast Editors Conference?
I'd love to.
Cool.
Chris, Steve, you want to spout one? I'll spout the other.
Sure. Our first sponsor is Libsyn, LIBSYN.com.
Nice.
And we're going to have Elsie Escobar there for just a few minutes to talk a little bit about Libsyn services and how they are backing us up. They're backing up podcast editors at the Podcast Editors Conference.
Mm-hmm. And we also have Hindenburg, because, of course, we need a digital audio workstation company to come and represent at Podcast Editors Conference. And Hindenburg definitely stepped up.
Nice.
And then another company, which I thought was really great to pair up with, although I don't know what they do with editing, but they definitely do have something to do with the equipment that we can use if we're doing some kind of remote location recordings, if we're doing tape syncs for our clients, things like that, is Focusrite. And a lot of people might be familiar with the 2i2, the Scarlett 2i2, which is just a darling of the industry where you can plug in two mics, get this great sound. You don't need a mixer. The Focusrite. In fact, I think, Chris, you used to use 4 of them.
Yeah, I've used a bunch of them, and Focusrite's a great company for sure. So, yeah.
Yep. And then our fourth sponsor is Descript, however you want to pronounce it. And I know there's been a lot of buzz lately about some of their new tools, how it can essentially cut editors out of the loop with their AI. And we're going to show people how editors can use Descript to make their jobs better, faster, smarter, yada, yada, yada.
And I'd like to give my professional opinion about that topic of that some of these, artificial intelligence apps are going to, these AI apps that can actually edit audio are going to replace human editors. The answer is no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good tool. Yeah. It's a good tool to have in your toolbox, but trust me, it ain't going to, maybe in 30 years it'll replace him, but not now. Yeah.
Yeah, we had some good back and forth with the company on why we think editors, the natural relationship there, because some of us are doing more than just an episodic interview-based show. We're doing story arcs. There's lots of all these things. Where do you come up with all that collateral and sort it? And they've got tools for that.
Nice. So it's not $5,000 for the podcast.
There we go.
It's not $4,000. No, seriously, what is it?
What's really great about this conference is it isn't just a one-day event that you have to fly in and fly out of. Because Mark set it up with Chris Mitzos from PodFest, and it is leading right into the entire PodFest festivities, we're able to sell a ticket that sells you both Podcast Editors Conference and PodFest from March 6th through March 8th for $349, which incidentally, if you just bought a PodFest ticket right now, it's $349. It's the exact same price.
It's the same price. So it's essentially a no-brainer. If you haven't bought your ticket now to PodFest, you should buy it, but you should come to podcasteditorsconference.com, buy your ticket on our website. That way you get PodFest plus our conference. But if you are already going to PodFest and don't have your ticket to Podcast Editors Conference, or maybe you just want to drop in for a day, we've got an option for you where you can pick it up, without the Podfest for just $99.
Right. So podcasteditorsconference.com is the website, correct?
Yep. And
Okay.
you'll see information on the tickets, the sessions, the speakers, updates. We even got our popular webinar replay on what editors are making and what influences their rates, because everyone wants to see that, right?
Yeah. So I have a message to everyone listening, all the listeners of my show. I want to tell you, you might be thinking, oh, it's only a month. You know, the conference is actually in a month from now. That's not long enough. I wanted to plan this 6 months in advance and get my flight and all the whatever. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's not too late. It's not too late. It's never too late for something that can literally transform your life. And I'm not just blowing smoke here. I mean, this is a conference that the key is the people that are going to be there and the people that you're going to be able to talk to off stage, not just their presentation on stage, but off stage. I'm telling you, you can talk to people, you can get insights and advice, you can make friends that are going to last for years. This can be something in your career, this can be like a nuclear bomb in your career. Actually, that's not a good reference, is it? This can be a real boost to your whole career. So thinking that, oh, it's too late or it's too much money, trust me, get the money, get to Orlando, just be there. I mean, that's how I see things. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if I could break it down, if you think about it, the $350 ticket, that is a pretty big expense, but let's do the math. $350 for the ticket. Let's say it costs you $250 to fly in, so we're at $500. Let's say it costs you $300 to stay at the hotel. Well, it might be a little bit more for the hotel, but that's $800. Meals, transportation, maybe another $200. So let's say it's $1,000 out of your pocket.
Let's call it $1,500.
Okay, we'll call it $1,500. That's fantastic. You go to the conference, you learn the tools of the business, you get the confidence from hearing Audrey Bell-Kearney's session on speaking to clients, you know which ones to hire. You're rubbing elbows with up to 1,500 podcasters at PodFest. If you land one client who pays you your rate, and let's say your rate's $100 per episode every week, that's $5,200 you could earn from one client just by attending the conference, learning the tools, meeting podcasters. And that one client, you're going to be able to make them speak to their peers, their friends, other people about how great you are, and it's just going to grow your business from there.
Yeah, and right here, I just decided I want to have a little private powwow one of the evenings at PodFest or at dinner or something, or I don't care, in the corner of a room. I don't care. A bunch of us are going to get together and we'll talk about how to get clients where you can earn $500 per episode.
Yes.
Okay? Let's do a small group. I don't care where it is, in a corner. I don't care if you sit me next to a fountain somewhere. Let's talk about it, because that can happen. That's a reality for many people in this world. 500 an episode or more.
More.
So anyway, all right. So there's a lot of opportunity here. Thank you, Steve Stewart and Mark Deal, for coming on here and giving us the lowdown. I can't wait for the Podcast Editors Conference. I can't wait for PodFest, and it's just going to be awesome hanging out. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Look forward to seeing you there.
Any last words?
Yes.
Sound great! Oh, I didn't even have to prompt them. Sound great! Dude. All right. See you guys. Thanks, everybody.